everybody. So this is my very first video on a topic like this, and I feel it's something important that I think needs to be stated, and which a lot of professionals have not really talked about, like a few of these points. Yeah, and like this thing states, I first intended this to be made as a document, but then I feel a video would have a much better reach. And it's okay if it doesn't reach many. It's come on, I'm just the first time YouTuber making this, so it doesn't matter. Now, as this states, this should be taken as a grain of salt. I mean, it's not going to be entirely accurate. You might have some inconsistency, but I'll try my best to have everything as accurate as possible. Now, as I stated here, I'm no pilot, I'm no professional, I'm no aviation expert, I'm no investigator. I'm just a aviation enthusiast who has love for aviation, passion for aviation, and I personally am against speculations and stuff, but when I saw a lot of posts that were talking about some factors which were clearly false, I had to make this statement on video. Now, I'm going to get to the point. Yeah. Now, these are the few topics that I had come up with. Now, one of the main things here is the flaps not being extended, fuel contamination, and dual engine failure. And a few of these points have also been taken from the videos of Swiss one. That's the tender gear retraction. I think it's just that one. And wings, I don't think there's anything that I've taken from them, because the others have actually something I've thought of. Yeah. Now, now the main thing is flaps not extended. Yeah. Now the flaps were in fact extended, as far as what the evidence suggests. Now, the first reason why I'd say the flaps were extended is because, come on, like, the pilots had high experience, like over 8,000 hours. The captain himself had over 8,000 hours, which is more than what, like that's like a lot of experience. And I'm not exactly sure how much he had over the type, but still, it's too much. And setting the flaps is something you do in a very initial stage. I think that's something you do before taxi, sometimes during taxi. So yeah, so you have a checklist that's a memory item, so you have that done throughout every flight. So, and with two professionals, the flight deck, I don't think that's a possibility. And the second, more concrete proof, like not proof, but like a more concrete reason, is that you can see that but like by this time you know that a lot of planes have a takeoff configuration warning. Now that's something that's played, or like that's a sound that comes in when you have a lot of when you have some things that's not set or working correctly. No, one of the main things, like one of the four main reasons, are like flaps and slats, parking brake, speed brakes, and trim. Now, if the flaps and slats were not set correctly, that's if they were set either in the up position or what's more than the ideal takeoff flap, let's say 25 or 30 or something, or if the parking brake is set on, and if the speed brakes are actually extended or in the extend position on the speed brake lever, and the trim is not set correctly. Now, some other planes have additional features such as rudder and aileron trim, and incorrect or mismatched FMS data. That's fact-checking the actual data from the plane. So you have a lot of things that is checked, and these four reasons. Now the warning comes in if any of these are a factor. Like, it's not just all four. Like, if the flaps are not set, it's going to come in. So I have a video here that shows this exact warning. I'm going to play that here for you.
As takeoff configuration warning system, it will go off for main reasons: flaps not set to 1 to 25, aircraft out of trim, parking brake set.
You hear that beep? You hear the beeps there? That's the takeoff configuration warning you just heard. So that's one of the reasons why the flaps were, you know, were actually, it's highly unlikely that it not being set. Now I have a picture of the aftermath which shows the flaps were extended, and I'll show that right after this next statement I have. That's the flaps were retracted instead of gear. Now a few people have the speculation that the pilot or the first officer accidentally retracted the flap lever instead of the landing gear. Now this, I would say, is a very vague idea, because if what I have here is the picture of the flight deck of a 787, and what you see here is the flap lever. It's currently set to the up position. That's what you would normally see it as, and that is the landing gear. Now this is a rather close up image. I did have a close up image of that. I do not know where that went. Oh frick, I just closed it now. Give me 1 second, I just closed it there. Should be having it here. Yeah, that's the image. Let's have a look at that. So this, once again, is the flap lever. You can see it says FLAP, and that's the landing gear, and you can see it says up. Now these are two separate, completely different levers. Now they have completely different functions. They have completely different ways of, like, being set, and they're in completely different positions and locations. They're nowhere close to each other. Now it's as if you set you turn on the hazard lights of a car instead of setting the parking brake. It's as equal of an idea it is as stating this. Now changing the flap lever is as simple as just pulling it up, but changing the landing gear is as simple as pulling it up, but the flap lever has individual gates. You see those hooks there? Those are individual locations, so the flap has to be pulled up. The lever has to be pulled up and put into those and left, so it falls on into that. So you have those individual levers. So if you want to move to flap 20, you have to pull this up, move to flap 20 and drop it there. Same with flaps up, pull it, go to flaps up and drop it. That's how you have it there. So it's highly unlikely for a experienced pilot to do that. Something that's literally done the very first phase of the flight. So as the V1 is read, the hands are taken off the thrust levers, and the rotation speed comes in, and the rotation kicks in, and once the wheels are off the ground, the pilot monitoring confirms positive rate of climb, and the pilot flying confirms that as well. And once both of them have checked and confirmed, looking at the altimeter and the airspeed and the vertical speed, both of them confirm that the positive rate is achieved, then the pilot flying says gear up, and the pilot monitoring, or the captain, whoever it is, they put the landing gear up. That's how it is. And so it's something that's done routinely. It's done in every single flight, so you get used to that. So it's not something you mix up. So it's highly unlikely for that to be a reason. And the third statement is fuel contamination. Now this, I think, would most likely be a reason. Now this can directly impact dual engine failure, because fuel contamination affects every single part. It could also be single, but I'll get back to that. Now I've seen a video, and I've had multiple statements where people have mentioned that airports in India, if not like the major airports, if not all airports, have a sophisticated and very intelligent and smart system that detects even a drop of water in the fuel tanks, so like the fuel that's being injected into the aircraft. So it's really highly unlikely for that system to not detect, in like contamination, impurities, or anything else than jet fuel. Now there could be a possibility that the system failed, but aircraft themselves have filters that filter out impurities. Now I think it has 3 or 4 filters, and pilots would know if even one of those filters have clogged up. So the chances of that are, it's not highly likely. I mean, it could be a possibility. That's why I can't rule that out, because it could be a possibility. Now, we don't have any evidence to say that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get to the images of the flaps. Now I'm gonna get to a video I have of the crash. I think it's the CCTV. Just give me a second there. Yeah. Oh, sorry, not that, the crash video. Now, if you look at this, just give me that. Okay. If you look at this video, you can, if I were to just seek just 3 seconds in, yeah, and if I zoom in, what you see here are the slats. These are the slats being set. And look at that as well. You have the inner slats as well. And if you kind of go back from the screen, just put some distance between you and the screen, you can evidently see a bit of the upper portion of the wing, which you would not see when you're on the ground. That means the flaps were actually set to the takeoff position, and you see the upper part of the wing. So the flaps are pointing downwards, so you see the wing, the upper part of the wing. And to further prove my point, I have these 2 images that I've taken off Reddit, which were further sourced from another, I think a news reporter. I'm not sure, but I'll be sure to link that in my description. Oh, what have I there? I think, where has it gone? Oh yeah. So if you look at this image, you can see it's the plane that crashed, sadly. It's the Victor Tango Alpha November Bravo, and you can see over here the flaps. These are the flaps, and those were extended, and this is an upright image. Like, this is an upright wing. The reason why I say that is because in this picture you can see this is another errand, yeah, Victor Tango Alpha November Lima, and you can see that registration number is on the upper part of the wing. Ideally it's on the lower, but in this it's in the upper part of the wing, because that you see this registration there, so you can see the wing there. And if you compare that with this, so that's how it is. And you can see the ailerons. Yep. And these are the ailerons, because this is the right wing, and that's the part of the wing attached to the fuselage, and that's been cut off now. And this is the flap. It's extended. You see that there. These are not extended because this is the, what you say, aileron. So that cannot be extended. So this is a flap. And to further prove my point, I have this image. It's the same wing. As you can see, I have 3 reference points. One is this debris, one is this debris, and one is this debris. Okay, just take a look at this small point, and this, and in this as well, you can see that small debris there, that big debris there, and that small debris there as well. Now in this image you can see, if I just zoom in here, so as I told you in this picture, this is the flap. The plane, if it were intact, would be pointing like this. Like, this side would be the front and this side would be the back. So this is the complete opposite. Now this is the front, the left of the image is the front, and the right of the image is the back. Where the ambulance is the back. Now where you see this, like, what this is the lever, or sorry, a lever of the slat. Now these, what you see here is the slat, or part of the slat. This is a lever. Now to prove what I claim it is, I have this image of a 787, as you can see, and you can see that same hook type thing there. And if I go to the image again, you can see it there. See? Evident. So the flaps and slats were out, so that proves the flaps were not retracted after landing. So that negates that theory, whatever that theory was. and fuel contamination. Like I said, I already explained that a few seconds back, that I'm not ruling that out. You cannot rule that out. And about possibility of a bird strike, now authorities of the airport, they have ruled out the possibility of a bird strike because they did not find any remains of birds, or any anything, any signs of there being a bird strike. And if you look at the CCTV footage of the plane, you wouldn't see anything that's possibly gone wrong with the birds as well. Now, if you take a look at the image, you never see them. You never see any sparks. You never see any stall. You don't see anything that has gone wrong with the engines. So like as in when I say gone wrong with the engines, there's nothing that's coming out of the engines, as in a spark of, like, no flames. So bird strike is ruled out. So that's just not there. Now, engine failure, I feel is the reason why there was no thrust. Obviously engine failure, but now I think it's more towards dual engine failure. Now, the reason why I say that is because a 787 is a wide body aircraft, and it's got powerful engines. So now I think it has the GEX engines. Let me just check. I just forgot. I literally had that in my mind, and I forgot if it's the GE90 or the GEnx engines, and or the Rolls-Royce Trent. I'm not sure which one of those were in this, but yeah. Now, those engines are fairly big, yeah. So it produces a humongous amount of thrust. That's so big of a difference. Like, if you were to have one of them on and the other one turned off, or like if one of them producing thrust and the other one not, you would visibly see and feel the plane yawing to one side. So, and in the video you don't see that. You don't see that at all. You don't see such a thing of the plane ever yawing in such a way. Now, you see a slight bit of yawing here, it a slight bit to the right, but that's not as significant. Now, it could be, but it's not as significant that it's only one side. So it's dual engine failure for sure. You see, it's dual engine failure. Like, I'm 90% sure it's a dual engine failure. Now, I'll come to my point why it could be a dual engine failure as well, because that proves from the rat that was deployed. Now, hydraulics failure. Now any three of this would trigger the rat. And to those who say the rat was not deployed, I have this video, and this is the original video, guys. This is actually the original video, and I'm going to turn the volume up, and I want you to hear the first 2 seconds. I'm not going to speak, and I want you to hear the first 2 seconds of this video. I'm going to bring the mic closer to the speakers of my Mac so you can hear that. I'm going to play it. Just hear it, yeah. Repeating it again. Did you hear something like a propeller of a plane? Like, remember, it's a jet engine and it's producing a propeller sound. Hear that again. Now, that's the sound coming from the ram air turbine. Now, Captain Steve just uploaded a video, I think an hour or two ago, right before, right as I was recording the first bit of this video, and he clearly shows the bit where the ram air turbine was deployed. I can show that in this video as well. I'll try my best to, at least. Now, in this bit here, You see that? You see that pixel there? You see that pixel there? You see that? You see that? That small thing over there, like on the on level with the wheels. Now that is the Ram-air turbine. Now to prove that it is the Ram-air turbine, you see the visual confirmation that there's something there, right? You see that? There is something there. You see? Now that's visual confirmation you have. Now I'm gonna show you a video that you need to hear, and that shows the Ram-air turbine of a 787. A 787 Ram-air turbine sound. Now, if I play this, yeah, just listen to this, yeah. I'm gonna bring it closer so you can see, so you can hear. Did you hear that? I'm gonna play it once again, so we can have a clear audio again. So that's the audio of the Ram-air turbine being deployed. Now another factor which Captain Steve had explained in his video. Now I'm just going to pull that video up.
All right, friends, I promised you we'd come back to you as
In a second
soon
here.
as possible, as soon as we got some new information about this
Now,
tragedy.
as I was about to talk about the rat, I'm so glad I went through this, because he spoke about a third point which I did not know.
Pan Air. You can see this clearly, so let me run that. You've got 11A, and he was right by an emergency exit, a few rows in front of the spar of the. He was in his seat. He didn't go unconscious. He get to the hospital. He heard a loud bang, and the lights flickered on the inside of the airplane. Now that bit of evidence, all by itself, it's not all that compelling, because you go, the guy's been through a really traumatic thing, and.
So that bit of evidence you see, the lights flickering, that's the Ram-air turbine getting into it.
You know, he could have imagined it. It could have been he hit something on the way down. The airplane did. That's the visual on the rat being deployed. The oral that we heard the rat when it went by, briefly as it was. And now we've got a guy saying he heard a loud bang and the lights flickered. What would cause that? The deployment of the rat. And then it's going to take over electrical and hydraulic. And as it does that, the lights in the airplane would flicker.
Now, that's a really important factor, and I'm so glad that Captain Steve, that I went through his video right before posting this, so I could remake the entire video and add those points. The first one is the confirmation, as in the passenger confirmation, that the lights flickering was part of the rat, and the visual confirmation. I did not actually capture the rat in it. Like I never saw that in the video, so I assumed it wasn't visually there, but in an audio form it was confirmed to be there. The presence was confirmed because of the sound. So thanks to Captain Steve. Check out his video on YouTube, please, and as well as Swiss 001's video and Wings, video for Wings. The three of them have explained exactly, like they have on PowerPoint. Like, you should watch the three videos if you want to have a good understanding of what could have happened. Now these three go on power. Now a dual engine failure causes both of this, hydraulics and electrical, and that's the reason why Rat helps out. Rat basically supports by providing hydraulics and electrical power in some way for the major systems, and hydraulics in some way so the flight controls could work. It does not provide thrust in any way. It's driven by the power of wind, so it cannot provide any thrust. Now the landing had not been retracted. Like, that, I mean, if you look at the video, you can see that the landing gear was never retracted. Now, that to be honest, like I said in the flaps part, like that's the first thing you do. So it's really hard to assume that the pilots forgot. I mean, forgot as in forgot to do that, and that's the reason the plane went down. I don't think so. Now that you have a confirmation that the rat was deployed, it proves that there was an issue with the plane, and I haven't got the exact information what the pilots told the ATC, but what I've heard so far is that the pilot mentioned no thrust, and that means that the engines were not giving thrust because the engines had no power. That means it was an engine failure. So that means that that's a bigger issue. You, like, landing gear not being retracted. Like, the thing is, when you don't have thrust or when you have any issues with the plane, and if you think you might have to crash land, having the gear down is a brighter and safer idea than not having it. Whatever you say, the drag it produces, like, it's gonna absorb most of the impact. Like, that's the first thing that touches. And like, it's another story if you crash into a building because you cannot control where you crash. Like, what you can control is how far, like how at least how smooth, or how like how much you try to not get it to crash in a way. So the captain tried their best. It's clearly visible from the video. And the other factor was midpoint takeoff. I've already negated that in my previous document, which I'm not sure you might have seen. So that was the half runway theory, and why I clearly proved the ones that still believe was wrong. And even Flight Radar 24 agreed the fact that the theory is wrong, because it was a problem with the ADSB ground radar service at the airport, so it did not register this half of the airport. So the plane was missing for 4 minutes from the Flight Radar 24 playback. That means that in the 4 minutes it entered the runway. So this is a runway, that's Delta 4, sorry, that's Romeo 4 taxiway, and that's Delta 4. The plane went onto the runway, backtracked, and it did a 360, and at 23, the runway 23, it performed the takeoff. That's normal procedure. So the plane did not take off from the intersection. That's been negated soon, like I think within the first day, but many still believe that's the reason. Now I did have a theory that what was that? Sorry, not me. Swiss 001 had a theory that the landing gear was retracted, as in the landing gear wasn't retracted, but the gear was pulled up. Now, the reason why that's stated is, if you take a look at this image, sorry, this bit of a video I have, you can see the landing gear, and it's the front, this bogie, yeah, the front part of it, the front two wheels are pointing down, and the rear two wheels are pointing up, relatively up. Now you could say like the plane is pointing up, so that's why it is, but in any way you see now the plane is pointing up a bit more, and this is somewhat level with the ground. So that means if the plane were to point straight, the front would still be down. Now that's what I believe, and if you were to take a look at this by yourself, that's what you would understand. So this is a bit more clear image there. Now what that implies is that now this is a video of a 787 at the gear retraction. So this is how it is, and now the gear lever has been selected up, and you can see what follows. Did you catch that? I'm going to rewind it once again. what you just saw is the landing gear being tilted. The reason that happens is these landing gear bays, yeah, the place where the landing gear is stored, that's designed in a specific way, and the gear has to go in that way. So this is how the gear is stored, and this is how it's meant to land. Now, this is for a smooth landing, and this is how it's stored. So the first step that happens when the gear is selected up is that this gear is fixed into this position, and you see, and then the doors come down, you see, and then the doors come down. So what I think might have happened over here, based on Swiss 001's video, is that the landing gears, the lever was selected up to reduce drag in some way. I'm not sure if that's what the pilots had thought, or maybe the problem started after the gear was selected up. I'm not sure. We can only speculate at this point, like I said. But what might have happened is that because the systems failed, the hydraulics failed, and because the Raman turbine was deployed, that's one of the less favorable, or like less important systems when you have a lot of other system that's more important, like giving power to the flight controls and the main computers, the flight computers, and all those systems is far more important than giving priority to landing gear doors when it's already deployed. So it, and like putting the gear up is, come on, it's not as important as like the other factors. So attempted gear retraction might have been a case, like not for the crash, but like that might have taken place. Now the factors that could be negated is that midpoint takeoff, flaps not extended, flaps retracted instead of gear, possibility of a bird strike, and these three, I'm leaning more towards the side of a dual engine failure because of how there was no thrust, and because the RAT was also deployed. That shows that the RAT is deployed in three of these cases here: dual engine, hydraulics, and electrical. So electrical only wouldn't cause any issues. Like electrical failure wouldn't cause no thrust. Hydraulic would cause no thrust. Like that's not a reason for there to be no thrust. The engine has to not work for there to be no thrust. Now I feel a reason to that could be fuel contamination. Now I seriously have no idea. Now that's not something we can decide. Now the evidence we have so far is that the flaps were extended, the gear was not retracted. Maybe the attempt might have been made based on the tilt of the landing gear, but that's not certain. And the deployment of RAT is certain. Like we have confirmation, we have the sound, and we have that small dot which you see over here. Like if I get into this part now, it's actually a bit more apparent now. Yeah, you can see a small thing over there, over this small, just above the cursor. You can see something there. That's the RAT being deployed now. Like I said in the statement, now this is like a lot of statements were like stereotypical, as you would expect from some people. So that's the only reason why I was more inclined to create this, because that's a terrible thing to say. I mean, it's you can't just bring some factors into this and say that is the reason why it could have been a pilot's error. Like that's, as far as we know, the pilots might have tried their absolute best and tried to get out of this, and we cannot just assume it could be pilot error. Same with Captain Steve. He initially did blame the pilots, but then he said it could not be pilot error because of how he then saw the original video. And that's the thing. Like most people who have like created these assumptions and speculations, they only got the first video. That's the and the fact is that the first video that I'm talking about, this one, but the video they have gotten of this is the one that was recorded off a mobile phone, and they don't even have this part of the video. They only have it starting from here, so they do not have the part of the rat sound. They have it taken from another phone. So you have a device kept there and it's being recorded from another phone, so the clarity is going to go way down, so you cannot see anything at all. So the flaps and slats, so I do not blame them for thinking the flaps were not set, but it's not right to just say the flaps weren't set when you have a video you cannot rely on, pixelated video, no evidence. Like that's the last thing you should be doing if you don't have proper evidence. So this entire video was to negate some theories that were made. Now again, I would incline towards I'm just going to make these changes here right then and there in this document. So I might publish this. Like I said, initially I intended on publishing these documents because it was far more easy to have people read them than go through a video of someone who they don't know. Now I'm going to highlight the ones orange that I think might have happened and negate the ones, mark them as red, the ones that are negated. Now the ones that could be a 3, I'm just going to mark them as yellow. Oh, that's not the yellow I was looking for, but yeah. Now possibility of bird strike, that's been ruled out. Yeah. Now hydraulics failure was certain. Yeah, landing not retracted, that's not a reason the plane would crash. Engine failure, yes. Yeah. So once again, huge shout out to Swiss001, Wings, and Captain Steve. I'm just gonna show his profile here. Thanks to them for sharing their sides of the story and like what they think might have happened. So thank you so much, guys. Once again, this is only a speculation video. I do not intend to come out as a professional expert or anything like that. It's purely speculation. Now my heart goes out to the victims of the tragic event that occurred on the Thursday afternoon. It's truly sad that the plane had just pulled up, like it's just taken off and it went down. Like that, it happened in seconds. I reckon like 30 seconds or something, 30 or 40 seconds. It just went down. That's terrible. And I can only imagine what would have gone through the minds of them passengers who felt that sudden change of the environment, you know, the plane going up and then the next second it just goes down and down and down. It never pulls up, and the plane visibly struggling to pull up and visibly going into an aerodynamic stall. So once again, my prayers are with the victims and their families. And yeah, I really have no idea how to end a video because I've never made a video. So yeah, once again, thank you. Goodbye.